Three, two, one. All right, we're live. It is my privilege today to introduce our guest speakers, Edwin Chang and Sultan Khan. Today, our IntelliPro leaders will discuss current job trends, differences between the US and Canadian job markets. They will also share how IntelliPro manages to thrive during the downturn economy last time. Edwin Chang is IntelliPro's head of global talent development, responsible for attracting and training the best talent in the recruiting and staffing industry. Under Edwin's guidance, our IntelliPro recruiting team grew twofold. Sultan is IntelliPro's global account director with extensive experience in information technology and services such as blockchain, cryptocurrency, autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles, finance, capital markets, and engineering industries. As you know, we have been all hearing a lot of news lately about the hiring freeze and even layoffs lately. But IntelliPro has been actually really busy helping our clients and acquiring new clients. Can you please comment?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Danny. It's actually been really interesting times. So when we look at US labor statistics data from April of 2022, the national unemployment rate, which is 3.6%, it was unchanged over the past month. However, it was 2.4% percentage points lower than in April of 2021, so a year ago. Right? So, but then according to like TechCrunch, 15,000 tech workers lost their jobs in May. So a very big change over that month. So what Forbes is thinking about this change is they're saying that C-level executives are cutting back on hiring and cutting the workforce to higher costs in response to the overall events, right? So, and once the situation improves, then they will start hiring again. Okay, so one thing that we've identified, and also according to TechCrunch as well, is tech companies are facing a correction, right? So a lot of people in the investment world really understand that term. They're facing a correction, so they're just adjusting to new circumstances.
Thank you, Sultan. And Edwin, you are based in Canada. What is happening with the Canadian market right now? Sorry, Edwin, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So the trends in Canada are a bit different. So if we look at the statistic from our labor force survey, the employment rate is actually sitting at a 5.2. So is that good? Actually, yeah, it's actually pretty amazing. Canada has never had an unemployment rate less than 5%. So we're really low at this point. Employment overall is actually holding pretty steady across services and goods producing sectors. And employment rates in professional settings, so scientific, technology services, is actually increasing month over month. And if you really want to take a quick snapshot of what that looks like, just on LinkedIn, we're only comparing to, we can call it the biggest platform. Just last month, we added 70,000 new jobs. And this is, mainly of the professional sector. We're not including blue collar, gen labor. So it's trending pretty well. So we're actually going up, the opposite of what the narrative might be saying in the news cycle.
A question for both of you. What are some activities you see on your end?
That's a good question, Danny. So for us being a global company and looking at activities from a broader perspective, it gives us some pretty interesting insights. So mind you, we work with some very innovative clients, and they continue to have unique needs for talent, and they're looking to fill some pretty demanding roles right now, right? So it makes things really interesting for both ends on like how we can make things better. So in order to make that more understandable, I want to make an analogy with the housing market, right? Because I've currently, I've been looking for a new home as I just sold mine. So when I'm out here looking for different homes, I thought, maybe I'll look for it myself, right? We always want to do things for ourselves because we really trust ourselves in these things. So I tried looking for a home myself. I went on as many websites as possible, looked at, hundreds, if not thousands. of different listings. I got really into it. And one thing I noticed, my wife and I both, we couldn't find as many things as we thought we could, nor could we find ones that were ideal for us, right? So we started losing hope, right? And that's what a lot of people do. They start losing hope in those situations. Finally, when worse came to worse, we decided, let's talk to an expert. In this case, we talked to a realtor. As soon as we booked a meeting with that realtor, within the first 5 minutes of talking to this person, and they shared their screen with us, they were able to show us at least a dozen listings that we never would have found on our own. So that's when we quickly realized we should have talked to an expert in this space from the very get-go. It would have saved us time. It definitely worked out in our best interest, not just for the short term, but also long term, right? An expert can explain all those things to you. So it's the same thing in the job market. Sometimes people are looking for a new step, or they just lost their job and are looking for a new one. They try to look for it themselves. However, if you're not an expert in that space and don't know how to find those different positions that are out there for you, you're most likely not going to find a best fit. However, when you talk to someone, let's say one of us, for example, a lot of people will reach out to me in this case, and I'll be able to share opportunities with them that are not even posted anywhere online. So they never would have been able to find that position. And that's why people really value working with experts like us.
That is truly fascinating. IntelliPro has a large team in Canada. I wanted to ask you how you work with the US market. Are there any major differences between US and Canada-based companies?
That is a really great question, Danny. So in terms of how we can differentiate between the two, there's some interesting stuff. A lot of the times I do want to say there's a lot of similarities between the two. We both speak the same language, of course.
Of course.
A lot of the things that we do in terms of our work culture and how we do things is extremely, extremely similar. However, both sides are reflected off of the economy and trends of each country as well, right? So to not get too specific, basically, I could just tell you one thing. Right now in the US job market, we're noticing jobs are obviously slowing down. We are seeing layoffs. We are seeing, hiring freezes and all that kind of stuff. In the Canadian market right now, though, Danny, we're not seeing that yet. It's pretty weird, especially because both countries are so close together. The things have slowed down in the US, but they're still really hot in Canada. So what we are seeing right now is there's a good amount of jobs in Canada, of course, as Edwin mentioned a little earlier. People are really taking advantage of those, and we're even seeing people from the US job market taking advantage of Canadian jobs as well, which is something that we usually didn't see before. Usually the trend was Canadians would like to take advantage of US job opportunities instead, right? So because of these different changes in time, we're noticing a lot of companies are now focusing their hiring efforts and also focusing on just talent in general in the Canadian market, right? Opposed to the US. So that's how companies are shifting their priorities in order to adjust with the times, like we discussed earlier.
And can't agree more. I'm going to go back one point and then follow up on this point as well. Yeah, the experts, your realtors, right? That's essentially your account managers and your recruiters. Like what we can do, if you connect with an account manager from the client side, you're going to get expert opinions on what the job market looks like. And if you're a candidate looking to partner with a recruiter, you're going to see all the listings. Basically, you're going to see jobs that aren't posted on every single job portal, and you get that direct connection with the account manager and the client. Internally, the difference between, let's just say, US recruiters, US account managers with Canadian recruiters, Canadian account managers, nada. We teach our recruiters absolutely the same thing regardless of where they geographically sit, and that's a huge advantage for us, right? Because as Sultan mentioned, there's a lot of US clients who are currently looking to hire Canadian employees. Multiple reasons for that. One big one is, cheaper cost for now, because what we're also seeing is that gap is actually slowly becoming less and less because there are a lot of Canadian candidates aware of this and they're demanding similar salaries to the American market. And the great thing with that is our recruiters know that difference, and we coach our candidates on how to negotiate the best salary packages. And with our clients, We let them know that, hey, you can't just expect a cheap labor force in Canada if you want top talents, because candidates are aware of the current situation. So by working with IPG and our recruiters, you kind of get the best of both worlds. Like you get expert in the North American market where candidates might not be aware of that and clients might not be aware of that.
And I want to add on to what Edwin just said, actually, really quick, Danny, is that, the fact that we're working with this so closely at IntelliPro, right? Internally, our Canadian team will actually now work with our US team very seamlessly. And not even just that, but both teams have great extensive knowledge of both job markets, right? Of each other. So when we're working with candidates, a lot of the time they're kind of confused. Okay, what is the difference between these jobs here in the US versus in Canada? And then vice versa as well. So the cool thing about us is the fact that we work so extensively with both countries and both job markets in both countries. We're able to educate people on, what would happen if they were to stay in their country and focus on job opportunities there? Or what would it be like if they focused it in the other country, across the border, right? And now because of that, what we're seeing is a lot of things are becoming, like Edwin said, it's merging very closely with each other, because this is now becoming the current trend that both job markets now, whether you switch back and forth, it's completely seamless. So it's really great to reach out to, the experts, like Edwin said as well, to make sure that you're actually fully understanding what's going on and how you're going to navigate it for the near future.
Yeah, I feel like we're just adding to each other's point. You pointed out two good points, Sultan, but I'm gonna add on one more thing to that. And it's not that I'm trying to one up you, but there might be questions out there going, well, what are the rules? What are the compliance issue? What are the legalities of it? Connect with one of us. We know, like we're cross-trained to know the US side and the Canadian side. So if you're a client trying to figure out, well, what do I have to do to hire in Canada? Or if you're a candidate and you're trying to figure out, what do I have to work in Canada or in the US? That's another reason why you should reach out to an expert. Like we can guide you and give you the right advice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Sultan. The last couple of years has been volatile, but this is not the first time IntelliPro has witnessed the change in the market. When the pandemic first hit, some companies really had a hard time. And interestingly, IntelliPro not only survived but thrived and experienced an amazing growth. What do you think contributed to this success?
Okay, I'm gonna go internally. All right, and then I'll do a bit of external. So when I say internally, I mean IPG as a company. How did we survive? How did we thrive? I think culture is key to begin with. And step back. So to kind of put some context on how we thrived, it means that we didn't lay off anyone. We didn't cut back on bonus. We didn't cut back on salary. In fact, not only did we not lay people off, it was during the pandemic that we grew the Canadian business. Not by just one-fold, two-fold, threefold. We grew the team from 6 to 30 plus during the pandemic, on that first year of the pandemic. So that's kind of what we've done. And I think the reason for that is we just have an amazing culture here, right? We back that up by proprietary software that we use, right? It definitely helps our recruiters survive. We are able to pinpoint the right candidates, and it helps us. Our job is to find clients, the right candidates, and find the right clients for our candidates. And the proprietary software that we use allows us to do that really quick. We're always people-centric first. As in, we're not transactional. We're not just going to talk to a candidate, and then if they're not the right fit, ignore them. We really do focus on, if we're going to spend the time to get to know you, we want to get to know you. We want to build that partnership and figure out what it is that you need, both from the client and candidate side, right? And this is how we typically work. We figure out what they need. So if it means that during the pandemic, a client is struggling, well, we talk to them. Why are you struggling? What can we do to help? What can we do to offload some of that pressure? And that's what we do. We're essentially
100%.
advising our clients and candidates.
I have to agree with Edwin. That was perfectly said. And I wanted to add to that as well, in terms of how we do things externally too, right? Which is what Edwin just finished on saying is the way we typically work with our clients is as what I call strategic partner, right? So figuring out every single little thing with them. what are their current priorities? How do they want to do things right now? What happens if they're not able to fill this role successfully, right? We need to be able to understand everything about, our clients in order to help them. And then through effectively doing that, we're able to help out, these job seekers as well by letting them know ahead of time what they might be getting themselves into, right? Because that doesn't really exist very often nowadays in the job market. So one of the ways that I like to work with them, and I'll give you an example, actually a little case study to give it a better understanding. We had a client, last year that had some pretty demanding needs during a really, really tough time. They were going through some layoffs, right? Now, the problem with layoffs, obviously, is you're definitely cutting down on your workforce because of whatever reasons in order to adjust with the times like we're seeing nowadays. But what happens when you don't have enough people to help complete certain milestones or projects that are ongoing in your company? And those things might be directly related to you surviving, such as, contributing towards your company's revenue or probably, being more profitable. You're going to have to fill that seat some way or another. So what I decided to do with this client who was very confused and not knowing how to, navigate this tougher times in order to stay, as a strong company, what we basically did is we got together. We saw exactly what needed to be done, how they were going to do it, and how can they get funding into their group to hire for this position. So after figuring out, how they need to work on things and bringing our experts, in on this meeting to see what technical areas they can cut back on and substitute in the other areas to hire for this position, we were able to come to an understanding within a week after, some strategic planning. And once we were able to figure that out, they needed to know how fast do we hire for this position. And at that point in time, we had to tell them we need to move as fast as possible, because at that time, it was really weird. The job market was becoming extremely, extremely hot because top talent engineers were being picked up by all the biggest companies. And this particular company wasn't able to do that. So we needed to work with speed, and we needed to be very, very detail oriented to make sure we find the best possible person who is actually going to enjoy this job. It's going to contribute towards their career in a very positive way. And it would, when both sides are happy, you have a beautiful story. So once we were able to do that, we quickly gave them the advice. They quickly understood it and took it. And within a month's time, we had their job position filled. And that person ended up helping the company move a much larger milestone forward. So at the end of the day, the company was happy. They have the best talent now in their company. And it was all thanks to, us being a strategic partner rather than what I would call a transactional expert, which is someone that takes an order, simply gives it back to you, and that's it, right? So yeah, hand it back to you, Danny.
Thank you so much for your insights, Sultan. And thank you as Edwin as well. I now want to leave some time so that we can answer some of the questions we have from the audience. Here's one from someone who is looking for a job. I just lost a job, and where should I look?
I can take this one, Sultan.
Yeah.
First thing you should do is just get connected with a recruiter. Like, don't leave anything to chances. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, go get your resume ready, be prepared. Get in touch with a recruiter. They're gonna help you fix up your resume, right? So like, even if you don't know what to do, that's what we do as a recruiter, right? That's what our team of recruiters are willing to do. Like, they want to meet with you, they want to figure out your story, get to know you, give you tips on your resume. And even if we don't have a role for you, let's just say, because it's, sometimes it's that partnership in terms of that match might not work, but we still want to develop that partnership. Let us help you on your resume. Let us help you with your interviewing skills. The first thing you need to do is get in touch with a recruiter, right?
I have to agree with Edwin on that.
Yeah, like that's the first thing you have to do. And then where do you look? Sorry, Sultan, where do you look? Everywhere on your own, and at the same time, have a recruiter do the same for you as well. It's free, right? You might as well, right? That's the greatest thing. Like, we're here to help. That's what we do.
And just to add on to that too, Danny, going back to something I said earlier about how I needed to talk to an expert when I was looking for a house, right? In that case, it was a realtor.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. Don't waste your time. Immediately talk to an expert about it. And that's just going to save you a lot of time. And it might even save you a lot of money as well. Because again, it costs nothing to talk to a recruiter.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Connect with any recruiter at IPG, www.intelliprogroup.com. Like there's so much resource out there, but again,
Yeah.
as Sultan says, just connect with an expert.
Yeah, we do have the link to our website in our video description, so make sure to check it out at the end of this video. We also have another question in from the audience here. What is the best way to get in touch with both of you?
LinkedIn. If you message me on LinkedIn, I'm gonna respond with context. By the way,
With context.
I can give you the. Hear me out. I'm never gonna ignore a client. I'm never gonna ignore a candidate if they sincerely reach out to me. What I will ignore is when a candidate reaches out to me for reasons that are not even related to a job. Like I'll give you one funny example. One candidate reached out to me because they were looking for a software development position that's not related to IPG, nor within the geographic location, nor did they know how to spell my name. So I knew it was a copy and paste message to 200 people. Did I ignore them? Actually, I didn't. I gave them that tip of, hey, you got to customize their message. What role are you specifically talking about? Can you link to the role that IPG posted so that I can get you connected with the right recruiter? But yeah, if you want to connect with me, have some context behind it, but just connect and say hi.
Well, that's extremely professional of you, Edwin. Thank you. We also have another question here. What recommendations do you typically give to a startup looking to hire the best talent?
I can jump on that one actually. So actually, it's funny. I'm working with a lot of startup companies right now that are all looking for top talents. And the number one way that I would really say for that is, of course, connect with the experts who will be able to help you out on figuring out ways where you can strategize your hiring, how you can advertise these types of jobs to people. But to be very honest with you, one thing that I've noticed, and this is actually feedback from our clients, especially these startup companies, is you need to talk to experts that have an existing, network of top talent, right? So typically, top talent, especially if it's in the IT space, IT or engineering, they don't look for jobs usually. If you're top talent, you're typically recognized, especially because the industry, it's pretty big, but it's also pretty small in terms of how everyone knows each other, right? So top talent never look for jobs. You have to go deliver it to them, right? So in this case, if a startup company, and as a startup company, you typically don't have the best marketing. Not everyone knows your name yet because you're still a startup. Those top talent are typically not going to be able to find you if you're posting your job ads everywhere. And if your recruiters don't have an existing pool of top talent in their network, they're not going to be able to find them for you either. However, when you reach out to experts, like we always say, especially at IntelliPro, we've been connected with top talent for decades, right? So we have an existing pool of people that are considered top talent, and all we have to do is simply talk to them, share a job description with them, perhaps explain to them why this startup is one of the best opportunities for them, and then they take it from there. Now, because we are trusted by our network of top talent, they'll actually take the interview, talk to the startup company. Let's say it's your company, Danny, right?
Yeah.
When you're actually able to talk to them, you'll be able to explain to them what you have going on for them, what can you potentially do for them in the long-term future, and how is this going to contribute to their current growth, right, and learning. Engineers love to learn and they love to work with the newest and latest stuff, right? So when you're able to talk to them after being introduced to them through us, it makes things a lot easier and you're able to provide more value to those top talents, not even just worrying about adding the top talent to your company, in general, right? So I would say get connected with the experts, such as us, for example. Tell us exactly what type of top talent you're looking for, and all we have to do is share the job description with them, talk to them, educate them more about it, and then build a connection with you.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Sultan. Obviously, recruiters in this entire industry is highly underestimated in the entire hiring process. How would you define the success in recruiting?
I'll let you take that one, Edwin, since you're the recruiting expert.
Give me that question one more time, just to make sure I don't go off
No
off
worries.
topic. It's a loaded question. Go one more
It's a
time.
very loaded question. Yeah. So it's how would you define success in recruiting?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I'll be honest. I mean, okay, I'll define it because I was once a recruiter, but now I manage a team of recruiters. How do I define a successful recruitment? Um, it's very kind of like sure it isn't, but I'm gonna lean on you're a successful recruiter if you've made an impactful change to the candidate that you're working with. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're the person who placed them, right? Like you're not the person who found them a job. Just simply giving someone the time of day to hear out their struggles, their stories, whatever it may be, helping them with their resume, helping them with tips and advices that they might not know because you're a recruiter, you're the expert. Someone who's looking for a job might just interview one time every few years. Recruiters interview one time every hour almost, right? So I think the answer is making an impactful change. As in, and the way you can assess that is if the candidate comes to you first. Like after you've met with a candidate, if the candidate comes to you first to say, "Hey, Edwin, thank you so much for your help. I just want to let you know I found a new job." I think that's what successful recruitment is, regardless
I'd
if
like
you place them or not.
100%. What Edwin said is perfect. And I'd like to add on to that as well, just because it almost made me feel a little bit passionate about this question, actually. It, a successful recruiter, just like Edwin says, they build real human connections, right? They're making an impact on that person's life. A lot of the times, the recruitment industry is pretty big, and there's a lot of recruiters that people can potentially reach out to in this market. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're connecting with someone that really cares about your situation. You don't want to just work with a recruiter that's looking to make their client happy by filling an open job that they have on their end, right? That job might be something really, really big and important. Potentially, that top talent that you're about to find a job for, they have a family. And that job you're going to find for them is going to help support their family and do things for their family as well, plus put a roof over their head, plus do other things for them, right? It's a really big deal. If that's not the case, there's also the case that, this are some of people's passions in their lives, right? For example, we work with a lot of technical people. They're very passionate about learning about new technologies, stuff where they get to play with new things, et cetera, and so on. So building those real human connections, really understanding what is it you really, really want, right? If you're not a good fit for one of my clients, I'll straight up tell you, hey, I don't have something that's actually going to work out for your best interest, right? And then we'll work with each other to see where we can go from there. Potentially, we might even go out of our way and start developing new clients for the sole purpose of finding that candidate the job that they actually want. That's something that we're no strangers to, right? So it's really about real human connections. That's the biggest thing, in my opinion, just to echo what Edwin was saying to us, Danny.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sultan. Just because we're running out of time right now, we have time for one last question. The question is, do you have any advice to young professionals on how to manage their career?
I'll let you start it.
Do what you want. I can't do what you want, and if you don't know what to do, then just try anything. When you're a new grad or you're young, you have time. Like don't stress over it. I mean, career development, right? Like that's what it is, right? You're developing your career. Do what you want. Do what you're passionate about. Do what you love. It's so cliche. Do what you love, and the money will come. It's true. It's so true, right?
And
Yeah.
I relate to that one pretty strongly. And Edwin just hit the nail on the head, actually, which is you have to do something that you love, something that you're actually interested in. If you're not interested in something, you're most likely not going to dedicate all of your time, attention, and sweat into it, right? Um, it was the case with me, for example. I studied something that I wasn't necessarily too interested in. I'm very honest about that. However, when it comes to the work that I do today, it is unrelated to what I studied in university. However, I love it. I love it with all my heart. So because of that, within my first few years, all I did was focus on what recruitment is, focus on the types of jobs that I'm recruiting for, focus on learning all of these different types of things and trying to understand everything to its very, very core. So it was great when I was able to meet people like Edwin, who are so knowledgeable in the recruitment space, because they were able to teach me things that I never would have thought about. And because I was interested in it and actually loved it, I actually paid attention and actually put in the effort of doing all the things that were advised to me in order to grow in my career. So that's, I'd say, is the very, very first step to anyone trying to start off a successful career for themselves. Find something that actually interests you, that you actually like. Because once you do that, it's the famous saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And essentially, that's what everyone wants to do in their lives. And that doesn't mean that you'll be less successful than the other person. You could potentially be the most successful person in the world as long as you love it and do the best you can at it because you're genuinely interested in it.
I like that attitude, Sultan. And sorry, but we're running out of time for today. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sultan and Edwin. And for those of you watching, please make sure to subscribe and like for more future videos where we'll be hosting regularly in the future. So be sure to stay tuned for those webinars coming up. I hope everyone have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Danny. It
Thank
was
you,
a pleasure.
Sultan.